Here are some examples of overlay materials that provide an outline effect. Using overlays, you can easily select which character or object will have the effect. We start by looking at a simple Fresnel example. It has an interesting outline effect, but it doesn't really generate lines. It has a smooth fall-off for the angles relative to the camera. It also still has many inner areas on a complex mesh that will be highlighted. If we round the output of the Fresnel node, we can now see it has an effect of lines around the character, but the issue with inner lines still persists, and the presence of areas that will be visible depending on the view angle. Using a different approach, we can create a material that its blend mode is set as masked, and the material is set to be two-sided. Then we use a two-sided sine node that will output 1 for the front face of a surface, and -1 for the back face. Connecting this to the opacity mask output, and inverting its value, will make only the back faces of a mesh be visible. We can then inflate the mesh by using a vertex normal node and multiply by a value. This will make the overlay mesh be rendered as a bigger mesh around the character, with only the back faces visible. Depending on the complexity of the mesh, there will still have many internal faces being visible. To improve the previous result, we can use the inverse of a Fresnel node and multiply by the two-sided sine inverse result. This will hide most of the inner regions. There are still some internal parts that are visible when looking directly at them, like the chin, and when looking from the side, the shoulders have also an outline even on conditions that might not be desirable. Another example trying to improve the previous condition. This had been changed to an additive blend mode, but could also kept a masked one. To hide internal parts of the mesh that were visible, we then add to the world position offset, an amount moving the mesh away from the camera position, so the surfaces of the overlay will be moved behind the original mesh. One of the issues with this approach is that depending on the angle of the camera view, the overlay might move behind another mesh in the scene. You can see this issue on the feed here. You also might need to adjust values of the offset from the camera depending on the complexity of the mesh. There are also other approaches for outlines, like use custom depth or stencils, or post-process materials, that have their own limitations or complexities. They will not be shown on this video. Thank you for your time.